All right, ladies and germs, we are back here today, and BAFTA was announced pretty early this morning, and actually, funny enough, I was actually really close to being able to do live reactions. It was just in that spot where I'm like, okay, I can either get up, be extremely tired, look like shit, and do the live reactions, or I can get 45 minutes of extra sleep. And I was like, I chose the 45 minutes. So otherwise I was really close to actually being able to do the live reactions this morning. But generally speaking, here with BAFTA, generally the films that we thought would go over well went over well. There's a few films that I think exceeded expectations, and a couple that were just a little disappointing, I think. I mean, nothing really that didn't do well on the long lists. You know, none of them like really stuck around and like got a bunch of stuff. Let's see here. I think the only thing really disappointing, I think, for any film, I think, just, and I looked at these this morning, haven't really looked them over very well since, so I'm kind of doing a couple quick searches here and there before we jump in. But I think Women Talking got absolutely nothing, which is just not a great sign at all for them. I mean, they've been, very, very, very uneven through the season. Critics' Choice really liked them, and the Globes barely gave them anything. SAG, they gave them Ensemble and nothing else, a nomination, that is. But yeah, I mean, that one's going to be interesting here when we get to the Oscars on Tuesday, the nominations, that is. Otherwise, I'm trying to think if there was anything else that really caught my eye for like big stories. And we'll get to like the most nominations and stuff here in just a second. But yeah, I think generally speaking, the bigger stories are less what didn't get nominations. It's more like how many some of these films got. The biggest story, I think, though, is All Quiet on the Western Front. 14 nominations. Incredible. One of the most nominated films by BAFTA of all time. I saw a couple stats where it's like, yeah, it tied with... who was it this morning I saw it tied with? I can't remember who it was, but there was a film out there that does have 14. I think Shakespeare in Love might have had like 15, including Best British Film. But otherwise, it's about on keel with that. And that one and maybe one or two others that I'm forgetting about right now are some of the most decorated as far as number of nominations films at BAFTA. But man alive, 14. And it was shortlisted in 15 categories, so that Best Actor contender, who's the only one who didn't get in, he must feel like shit right now. Poor guy. It's like they just left him out to dry. Even the supporting actor got in. It's in for screenplay. It's in for casting, which I put it in, but I was very skeptical of it actually getting in. I was like, maybe just because they like it so much, but that might not be the best reasoning. Otherwise, it is literally everywhere else it could be. Including director, which is the big one. I was like, just for pride points, I'm like, because I can't remember anyone else who around November was calling for Edward Berger to get a nomination. I was one of the first ones out of the gate that I've seen. Now, I'm sure any of you guys out there can point me to somebody else that says, hey, this guy or this girl called it as well. I'm like, okay, fine, that's fine. We'll share credit, because I seriously, I don't remember anybody that early picking Edward Berger to get in, and I'm actually... haven't checked out Gold Derby yet. He's got to be in the top 5 now, isn't he? Yes, he is. Barely. Well, not barely, but James Cameron's behind him. Yeah, and we'll get to the categories here, of course, in just a second. So that's your big leader. Just, the film, I think, could have gotten a few nominations here and there throughout the season. Like, it might have gotten maybe one or two other things at the Globes it didn't get into. Not that I was predicting them to, but there was an opportunity for that. SAG, they just couldn't find a place to give it anything at SAG. PGA might not have even been eligible. DGA, same thing. It's Parasite was eligible and stuff a couple of years ago for PGA, but and DGA as I recall. But for maybe this one was not eligible. I just haven't seen anything definitive on it, so I can't say that for sure. But this, I mean, if they were thinking, we might get just maybe one or two things at the Oscars. Oh boy, if the voter overlap is what we think it is, All Quiet is probably going to end up with a good number of nominations. Matter of fact, I think we will... I think we can really... I don't want to go too long today, but I think we can really quick... I might just do a quick recap for who I have in at the Oscars right now, and then I'll get, that's who I have as of like last night or whatever. But then after I see these, nominations more fully and have a little bit more time to stew with them and stuff, then I might take one or two small changes before we get to Tuesday. Yeah, and I should be able to get my final nomination predictions up by Monday. Should not be a problem there. So, yeah. So, yeah, if not, I might shoot something and then just not upload it until Monday, if there's something I can do earlier. But we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, as of the last total, though, I had All Quiet on the Western Front tying with Babylon and The Fabelmans, all getting 9 nominations. Was the last I did here. But one of those, I just didn't know what to do with that 5th slot in support in Best Actor, so I just put the guy who was the lead actor from All Quiet, who is Felix Kammerer, who's the only person not to get in at BAFTA here today from the film All Quiet on the Western Front. So I'm like, shit, now I can't pick him. I got to go someone else. I was just going just as a kind of a weird thing, because I thought he would get in here today, and I'm like, oh, that might be one of those weird carryovers that happens. But I'm not really ready to pull the trigger on Paul Mescal, though. So yeah, that's one I'm definitely gotta. I don't know. I might just have to pull a name out of a hat out of like 3 or 4 possible nominees there, and just see who comes up. Anyways. Otherwise, for other films, I got a bunch of nominations. Banshees and Everything Everywhere All at Once, the 2 films we kind of expected to do pretty well here. They both got 10 nominations. So that's, again, I can't really think of too many places when I looked at the list here that they were short or long listed in that they did not get into. So that's by no means a surprise. And then Elvis. Elvis pulls 9 nominations, which is really, really good. And again, a big show of strength for that film after it did miss at like DGA, did not get an ensemble nomination at SAG. So I think if you're, which studio is that? Warner Brothers? I'm pretty sure it's Warner Brothers. If you're Warner Brothers, I think after your performance here today at BAFTA, even though you didn't get director today, you got film, you got actor, you got, I was going to say screenplay, but that wasn't right. You got most everything else. You got even the casting awards. So you got a bunch of stuff here. So I don't think it's anything to be too sad about. And I think there is still an off chance that Baz Luhrmann could be that 5th slot when we get to the director's branch. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so there's your 4 films that led with most nominations. Okay, so that being said, let's get into the individual categories here, and we'll talk about the nominees a little bit. So your film nominees, only 5 here, are All Quiet on the Western Front, Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Tar. I was pretty close on this. I got 4 out of the 5, right? Or no, I didn't have Elvis. That's right. I did not have Elvis in. I did not have Tar in, so I believe I got only 3. Let's see if I remember my... Because I did not have the Fabelmans in there. I had Top Gun in, and maybe I did have Elvis. Hold on a minute. If I go back, I think I can go back, because I match everything up with what I put on, everything that I think I put on Gold Derby, so, 77% accuracy, so that must be all right. Yeah, I did have Elvis in there, okay. So, yeah, Top Gun was my 5th one. That did not quite get in for Best Film, but, again, that one did okay for itself there. Let's see here. Otherwise, I don't think there was any... films long listed that really needed the boost at BAFTA that I can think of that got in. So like we knew Tar was safe. We know the other 4 generally are safe. Some people were not so sure on All Quiet on the Western Front, but after its performance today, man, that might change. We'll see if anybody else jumps on that. Let's see. Let's move over to Best Directing. And in the directing category, we have Edward Berger for All Quiet on the Western Front, Park Chan-wook for Decision to Leave, Todd Field for Tar, the Danielses for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Martin McDonagh for Banshees, and Gina Prince Bythewood, who's the only female nominee here today for The Woman King. So, okay, so I was, my suspicion that they were going to do an even split again was not quite correct here. So so automatically 2 of my nominees are wrong there. Otherwise, I did have Berger, I had the Danielses, and Martin McDonagh as my 3 male directors in. And Todd Field, if I had, totally gone with that, Todd Field I would have automatically put in over, probably over Sarah Polley, but I don't know. Charlotte Wells was the one I was really surprised not to see her here, though. I know there's even been some rumblings, it's like, hey, she might even have a shot at getting that 5th slot for directing at the Oscars. But... Yeah, especially with After Sun doing pretty decent here today. It's got a total of, what, 6 nominations? Four. Four, I'm sorry. I was overhyping it a little bit there. It got 4 nominations, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it could have, maybe it could have gotten to 5 or 6. I think it had a couple chances here and there, and it just didn't quite have it there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, Spielberg, James Cameron, those were not long listed, so we know they were not going to be here today. Let's see here. Otherwise, is there anybody else on here that was like mysteriously not here? I think Kaczynski was on the long list, but he got in at DGA. But yeah, I don't know if anybody is realistically thinking that Joseph Kaczynski is like a lock to get in. He's going to be, if he gets in, he's that really shaky 5th nominee. But yeah, if I remember right, Boz was on the long list here. So yeah, he's probably the only other one that I think people were somewhat confident in possibly getting a shot there, and he did not get into the 6th field there. Okay, moving on to the acting races. Leading actor, you've got Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for Banshees, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Daryl McCormack is in for Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, Paul Mescal for After Sun, and Bill Nighy for Living. Let's see, I missed at least one of these guys. I did not have Daryl McCormack, and I was really close on putting him in. So yeah, Felix Kammerer I had in there, and then I think I had Paul Mescal. Yeah, so I got 5 of those. Let's see, I should probably open another tab here, shouldn't I? That way I can bounce back and forth. Because I'm looking at the list for the separate categories, but then I'm also like, okay, well, what did I predict? Because some of those are ones that are just not off the top of my head all the time. So pretty sure I had 5 of those. Did I not? Yeah, I got the other 5, so that's fine. Let's see. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, for the ones that we were thinking, okay, this could be a last shot, of strength for them. It didn't, it wasn't like a lot of them were on the long list. Hugh Jackman was on the long list. Adam Sandler, who got the 5th SAG nomination, he wasn't on the long list. So Tom Cruise was, so he got a nomination at Critics' Choice as well. But now he missed here, and he didn't even get in for film, so he's not even a nominee as a producer on the film. So that's he's missing everything there at BAFTA nominations. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, that 5th slot's going to be really pulled from a hat at this point. But we have a very, very competitive field here when we get to Best Actress. Here we go. You have Cate Blanchett for Tar, Viola Davis for The Woman King, Ana de Armas in for Blonde, Daniel Deadwyler for Till, Emma Thompson for Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And this is going to be really tricky before Tuesday, getting this down to 5. Because I so want to put Ana de Armas in there, and I need to put Viola Davis in there, because I have both of them missing in favor of Michelle Williams and Margot Robbie. So, and Babylon got, I think it was 4 nominations here today. So it's still, 3 nominations. Okay. So it's in that kind of closer to the lower tier there. But I don't know. With the acting ensemble nomination at SAG, I feel like they give it something acting-wise. Right now I have Margot Robbie in, and because, by the way, last night I actually watched The Fabelmans, so I'm caught up on that one at least. I've only got 2 of my Best Picture predictions. I have not, 3 actually I have not seen. I've not seen Avatar quite yet. Elvis and All Quiet I've not seen. But and after watching it, I'd taken him out before, but especially now after watching the film, I'm like, oh, Judd Hirsch, he's only in it for like basically 1 scene, and that's really about it. And even in that 1 scene, he's memorable, but I wouldn't call it a great performance. So yeah, I do not see him getting in. Like, that would be a major shocker to me at this point if he gets in. So so I put Brad Pitt back in there for that 5th slot. I don't know, I might have had him earlier in the season in for supporting actor, but I don't know. I feel like Eddie Redmayne with The Good Nurse, it's like, are enough voters going to watch it? Because he's the only thing in there that they're going to vote for. Because again, we're falling into that Timothée Chalamet trap. Last year with Ruth Negga for Passing. There's Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers. It's a trap that we like to fall into, and it's like I see he's moved up a little bit here in some of the odds, but I'm not biting on that. If he gets in, he gets in. I'm just going to miss it. So I'm thinking it's like, okay, either him or maybe Ben Whishaw if Women Talking gets a little bit of a boost here. But no, I think it's right now I'm thinking Brad Pitt. And he was longlisted here today at BAFTA. He didn't get in, but he was at least longlisted. So some of the British voters, at least, the ones that selected the nominees, it's like, okay, they're at least aware of him in the film. So I think I'm going to keep him for now. So that gives me reason to drop Margot Robbie. But wow, somebody's heart is really going to get broken here in this category. I feel like I need to put Viola Davis in. And it's going to be Ana de Armas or Danielle Deadwyler, I think that gets that fifth slot. So, I don't know, because Till is also in that same deal. It's in that same boat where it's the only expected nomination from its film. And if you get, I guess, I'm not asking this to be an ass or anything, but does Ana de Armas, if she gets in, since she is Cuban, I don't think that counts as a person of color, right? Not by the current PC code or whatever. I don't know. I'm just saying code just as a word, but whatever. You've got Michelle Yeoh, who I from everything I'm read, she counts as a color person. So it's like, okay, a person of color rather. So it's like, if that's, not to say that that's all they're going off of here, but it's like if they want to celebrate that or something, if they want to highlight that, it's like, okay, does Ana de Armas count? I don't think I don't know. Antonio Banderas didn't count 2 years ago or 3 years ago now. So I don't know. But at the same time, Danielle is also really good in her movie, and I haven't seen Blonde or The Woman King, so I can't judge just those ones just yet. But I don't know. And Margot Robbie, she's a previous nominee. Even though she didn't really pan out, she's only gotten in at the Globes and at Critics' Choice, and she wasn't longlisted here at BAFTA, so she didn't just miss it or anything. But wow, I don't know. Boy, I don't know. And then the weird thing too is Michelle Williams. I'll probably get into a review of The Fabelmans later. But man, if she does not get in for that, that's a sin. She is next level in that movie. So I'm keeping her in. And boy, is freaking Universal and her agents and everybody, are they just completely just shouting from the heavens saying, why did we put her in lead? I don't know. After seeing the movie, I'm like, I think it would have been fair if they would have put her into the supporting category. I think it would have been fair. It would have been a little cheap. It would have felt like putting Viola Davis in there for Fences. But it's the same thing. Because I remember in 2016, 6 years ago now, we were all, some of the buzz around when Viola went from lead to supporting, there was very much a buzz of, hey, this could have really come down to Denzel and her agents and everybody just saying, hey, Viola, you're going up against some pretty stiff competition there in Best Actress. Do you want the nomination in lead or do you want the Oscar win in supporting? And she chose supporting, and it panned through. She basically swept the season. And man, if it was Michelle Williams in supporting actress, I think she would have a decent shot at also doing the same, sweeping. And that's not taking anything away from Angela Bassett, who also has a chance now to sweep in supporting actress because she is in here today as well. They have to be really shooting themselves in the foot here today because they're like, why did we put her lead? Because now, she's missed at SAG and at BAFTA. But I don't know. The Fabelmans, though, at the same time, that's a movie that we know the voters are going to be watching. We know that's going to be really high up on their list. So it's not like a film like Babylon, which we know people are watching, but some people are probably shutting off. We know it's not Banshees, which is pretty safe. Fabelmans I would put into that same branch there. That's probably not the best example. We know it's not, Top Gun, which again, some of the snootier Oscar voters that are more into the indie fare, some of them are probably just not putting it very high on their list for Best Picture, or just not putting it in at all. Let's see. Otherwise, let me get to the list here again. It's not, Women Talking, for example. She's not in Women Talking, which is, again, a more periphery film right now where it's like, it's in, but, is it really, is it solidly in, or is it just going to squeak in, kind of thing. So, she's not in a film like that, so, which is, I think, beneficial for her. Oh, God, that's tough. Again, I might just have to... we feel confident that it's Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh, right? Like, those two can't miss, right? It's the other three slots are really, you're trying to fit arguably 5 contenders into those 3 slots, and it's really difficult. It is really difficult right now. Oh boy. I don't know what to do with that, so we'll come back to it later. Let's go to the supporting acting categories here. You've got Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan both in for Banshees. Ki Kwan in for Everything Everywhere. Eddie Redmayne in for The Good Nurse. Albrecht Schuch in for All Quiet on the Western Front. And Michael Ward in for Empire of Light. So I had Brad Pitt and I had Woody Harrelson in instead of Albrecht and instead of Michael. But yeah, Michael, that one I was definitely like, okay, that could just happen, and I'm just, it's just really close, but yeah. Again, when we get to the Oscars, I feel like the 2 guys from Banshees are safe. Paul Dano, who was not on the long list here for BAFTA, I feel like he's pretty safe. His performance, again, I thought was pretty good, and nice to see him play a nice character for once. I feel like every time I've seen him, it's like he's a slave hand, or he's the creepy guy from Prisoners, or of course he's the Riddler, so it's like, finally nice to see him play a decent guy for once, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Redmayne now has made Globe, SAG, and BAFTA, but again, I am just not biting it right now. I just don't feel like that's going to happen. In supporting actress, we have Angela Bassett for Black Panther, Hong Chow for The Whale, Carrie Condon for Banshees, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere, Dolly DeLeon for Triangle of Sadness, and Carey Mulligan is in again for She Said, which, yeah, I dropped Carrie a little while ago. My 5 right now are Angela Bassett, Stephanie Sue, Carrie Condon, Jamie Lee Curtis, and Hong Chow, and I feel decent about those 5. I don't think that Carey Mulligan really, at this point, she's missed quite a bit. She Said is just, again, has not been top of mind for voters. I think it's probably going to get that screenplay nomination and nothing else. And if I remember, She Said got the screenplay nomination here as well. And I think those are the only 2. So, so it's, it is, got a little, another nomination here at least. But yeah, I think it's one and done at the Oscars for screenplay. I just don't, it's a little harder, I think, now to get Carey Mulligan in. So I got 5 of these 6. Just that Amy Lou Wood I thought was a pretty safe bet, but nope, they go with Carey Mulligan instead. To the screenplay races now. An original screenplay, we've got Banshees, Everything Everywhere, The Fabelmans, Tar, and Triangle of Sadness. So keep in mind, this is the only place that The Fabelmans is nominated here. Kind of interesting. I had After Sun in there, and that felt like a pretty good, solid original screenplay pick there. But I feel like at the Oscars, it is these 5 that carry over. I just don't think. After Sun really could have benefited from a nomination here today. It could have been that 5th one instead of Triangle of Sadness. But it is Triangle. Sorry, I almost thought I had said Decision to Leave, which I'm like, no, I think that's in original, but it wasn't one of the nominees at BAFTA here today. So I feel like these 5 will repeat. Over to the adapted side, we have All Quiet on the Western Front, Living, The Quiet Girl, She Said, and The Whale. So with this one, I feel like, okay, Women Talking was longlisted but did not make it in. So that's surprising. It did win at Critics' Choice, but Glass Onion also was longlisted here but did not get in. So that's interesting. Those 2 missed. The Whale, because I'm thinking, okay, because Women Talking I've had out front here for quite a while. I don't think The Whale is enough to win over. All Quiet, I don't think is going to win this. It's hard enough to get the war films in for screenplay anymore. At Living, I don't have in. I have my 5 are still Women Talking, The Whale, Glass Onion, She Said, and All Quiet. So I don't know. I just Living, that felt like more of a BAFTA thing to put that in for screenplay. But I just don't. Again, I think it's, even though it's only expected to get the one, for sure to get the one nomination there in lead actor, I just don't know if the writers are paying attention to that movie. I don't, and having not seen it, I don't know if that's, like it's actually a really, well-written screenplay or something, but I don't know. That's kind of a tougher one there. We'll go on to the casting category now. Your 5 nominees here are After Sun, All Quiet on the Western Front, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Triangle of Sadness. So this is really the only place where Banshees did not score, which is strange because, again, they like some of the small ensembles sometimes here, and then other times they like the biggest cast. So otherwise, I got 4 of the 5. I did not have After Sun in there, but I felt like I was probably pretty close to putting that one in. It felt conceivable, at least. Let's see here. Otherwise, we'll talk about the other feature categories here. For animated film, you've got Pinocchio, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, Puss in Boots, and Turning Red. I think those 4 are pretty much locks to get in, and that fifth one's a little trickier at the Oscars. But they only have 4 nominees here at BAFTA. For documentary feature, you have All That Breathes, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, Fire of Love, Moon Age Daydream, and Naval Knee as your 5 nominees. For film not in an English language, you've got All Quiet, Argentina 1985, Corsage, Decision to Leave, and The Quiet Girl. You've got, we'll go ahead and do, Best British Film. Yeah, we haven't talked about that one. So 10 nominees here. The 10 nominees for British film are After Sun, Banshees, Brian and Charles, Empire of Light, Good Luck to You, Leo Grand, Living, Matilda the Musical, See How They Run, The Swimmers, and The Wonder. And I guess, we can get to the technical categories now. Cinematography, 5 nominees are All Quiet, The Batman, Elvis, Empire of Light, and Top Gun. For costume design, you've got All Quiet, Amsterdam, Babylon, Elvis, and Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. For editing, you've got All Quiet on the Western Front, Banshees, Elvis, Everything Everywhere, and Top Gun. Makeup, you've got All Quiet on the Western Front, Batman, Elvis, Matilda the Musical did get in, and The Whale. For score, All Quiet, Babylon, Banshees, Everything Everywhere, and Pinocchio. Which I feel like those are probably about it for score. Everything Everywhere did not get on the short list, though, so you have to fill in one there. And I think it's Fabelmans. I'm pretty sure it'll be Fabelmans at the Oscars. Though the other thing, Women Talking. I think Women Talking does get the nomination over All Quiet on the Western Front. But I think All Quiet was on the list, I believe, for shortlisted for score, if I'm not mistaken. So I feel like it'll probably, if it doesn't get in, it'll be close. Yeah, it is shortlisted, but it's not currently in my predictions. For production design, you've got All Quiet, Babylon, The Batman, Elvis, and Pinocchio. Sound nominees are All Quiet, Avatar, Elvis, Tar, interesting one there, and Top Gun. And for visual effects, you've got All Quiet, Avatar, The Batman, Everything Everywhere, and Top Gun. So, and I guess we can really quickly talk about the Rising Star nominees. You've got Naomi Ackie, Sheila Adam, Emma McKay, it might be Mackey. We'll see. Amy Lou Wood, and Daryl McCormick. So sometimes that Rising Star Award sometimes does kind of throw a wrench in things, because sometimes you get the double nomination, other times you don't. Like Daryl McCormick today was one of the double nominees, but Amy Lou Wood is not. So I don't know. We'll see. I guess really quick, let's go ahead and run down like my brief thoughts on who would win if we, based off of how everything did today. For film, that is a toss-up. Even though All Quiet has the most nominations and stuff, and it does have a directing nomination, I don't really see it as a winner here for film. I think it comes down to Banshees and Everything Everywhere, personally, and it's kind of a toss-up right now. I think based off of momentum, I can see Everything Everywhere doing well here and winning this, but Banshees, look at how well Martin McDonagh did with 3 Billboards over here at BAFTA. That's a tough one. That's a tough pick. I'll give... And it's missing from that casting category. I'll give advantage to Everything Everywhere, but that is really close. In the directing category, I'm going to go with the Danielses for now, but Edward Berger could win that, and Martin McDonagh could win that. So that's a 3-way race. For actor, Colin Farrell could win. Brendan Fraser is potentially going to be in sweep mode by that point, so, and especially with The Whale also picking up 3 other nominations, that really helps it. So I'm going to go with the sweep mode being on. I'm going to go Brendan Fraser for now, but Butler and Colin Farrell are both going to be fighting for that one. But there could be a sympathy vote for Bill Nighy, though. We'll see. He has... I was going to say he has at least 1 nomination previously from BAFTA, if I'm remembering correctly. Or he has a win, actually, yeah, and that's for Love Actually, he did win over here for supporting actor so many moons ago. And he does have, on the TV side, he does have a win previously for State of Play. So he has won before. If he had not won before, I think he'd be more so in the race. And they could still give it to him. If Living had gotten in for film, then okay, then I think it would be a much bigger argument here. But I'll throw him in as a not so distant fourth. We'll say he still has a shot there to win. Actress, probably Cate Blanchett, but Emma Thompson could throw in, especially since she is not also up for supporting actress. This is the one place to vote for her when you get to BAFTA, so I could see her possibly getting a major upset there, but right now you can't go against Cate Blanchett in that category, I feel. Supporting actor, I think Ke Huy Quan's just going to keep rolling. Supporting actress, they might go Carrie Condon here over Angela Bassett. That would not shock me. And then that maybe sets up one of those weird, like, Bridge of Spies, Mark Rylance things, or Anthony Hopkins things, where it's like, okay, if Carrie wins here, do we say she's then going to win the Oscar? We'll see. And at that point, too, we won't 100% know where the race is, so maybe by that point, Banshees does not have a solid category where it's, like, guaranteed to win. So if they have to give Banshees something, they might give it Carrie Condon. But, again, we'll see. We've got a long way to go until then. For now, I'm going to go Carrie Condon, though. Angela in a very close second, though. For original screenplay, Banshees. I just think even if Everything Everywhere wins picture, or film, rather, I think they're going to go Banshees for screenplay. For adapted screenplay, I can see Living winning that. This is a weird 5. I'll just go Living for now. Let's see, for British film, that's going to be close. That could be where Banshees wins there, so then you can give Everything Everywhere best film overall. Though, if I remember correctly, 3 Billboards did win both that year at BAFTA, both best British film and also winning for picture. Yeah, it did. It won both, so that could happen again, but we'll see. I don't know if quite. I mean, at this state in the race, Billboards was our kind of front runner, or really close second. But right now, I think Banshees, if it's not in second place, it's in third. I mean, that's really between that and Fabelmans. I think it's a fight for second there. I still think Everything Everywhere is our front runner right now. Let's see, for the other feature categories, animated features, Pinocchio, I think that one's done. Documentary, probably All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, and not in the English language, we'll say All Quiet. Since it has so many nominations, and again, there might not be a very obvious place to give it something, I think they might just default to that. The casting category, though, boy, that they could just go with After Sun or Elvis there. But Everything Everywhere, I think, is our default for now, for winning that. To the tech categories, cinematography, since we don't have Janusz Kaminski here, who I think did an excellent job with Fabelmans, and again, I'll probably get a review of that in before I go into my latest Oscar predictions. But yeah, with this, probably Claudio Miranda for Top Gun. For costume design, probably comes down to probably Elvis or Babylon there. For film editing, Banshees is in, and I'm like, that's one of those in film editing. I've been thinking about it the last couple weeks. I'm like, okay, do I put Banshees in? Right now, I do not, but we'll see. I might change my mind on that. I think it's probably Top Gun, and I'm probably going to overthink it, but Paul Rogers did just win a Critics' Choice, so throw that out there. Makeup and hair, probably it is The Whale, and we're going to overthink it. It could be Matilda, but I think The Whale. I think they line that up with Brendan Fraser, like we think is going to happen at the Oscars as well. For score, with this lineup, it's probably Babylon and Justin Hurwitz just to carry over from the Globes, but we'll see. I need to remind myself who it was. Gildor who won for Critics' Choice. So since she's not here, oh boy, that leaves Justin Hurwitz. Carter Burwell was also a nominee though at the Globes, as was Alexander Desplat. You've got those three that carried over, and both of them were I think all three of them actually were nominees at Critics' Choice, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not Carter Burwell, but I don't think he did get in, but that's just off the top of my head. I'll stick with Babylon for now. Production design, probably Babylon or Elvis. For sound, probably Top Gun. But Avatar and All Quiet, really, maybe not Tar. This was the one place for Tar where I'm like, ooh, I didn't really think it had a chance there. But, the other four I think you could make an argument for. Visual effects, Avatar, easy. So, yeah. Okay, so before I do give my latest predictions here for all the categories here at the Oscars, I can really quick talk about Fabelmans. And I did briefly talk about The Whale. I saw that almost 2 weeks ago now. Just really quick on The Whale. Yeah, Hong Chow is excellent in it and really surprised me. I didn't know she was going to be as good as she was in it. Brendan Fraser, I think he delivers here. He has to work through all the makeup, but you can see underneath that makeup, he is acting his heart out for this film. And it's a great comeback story for him and Q Kwan as well, so I think those two narratives are going to carry him through the season. Otherwise, the screenplay is really good based on a play. From what I've heard, it's actually almost like a direct adaptation, but still, it works on the screen. I just felt like overall there were moments here and there where it's like certain characters would kind of escalate things when it didn't feel very natural. Again, I think that's more to do with like on stage it might work a little better. Just on film, it was really weird. It's like they'll be in the middle of a normal conversation and then it just escalates and it's like, oh, okay. Now all of a sudden we're yelling and it's like, oh, okay. I don't know if we needed to get to that point that quickly, but yeah. And it is kind of a hard film to watch at times because it's like he is just such a giant dude and stuff, and it's like, oh, at times it is kind of hard to watch, especially like there's a couple binge eating scenes where it's like, oh god, you just don't, it just grosses you out, just completely grosses you out. Otherwise, I know the film has a couple controversies about it because of like fat phobia and stuff, and it's like, I'm sorry, but when you get to 600 pounds or 550 pounds or whatever, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, there are going to be mean characters in the film. That's how life works. There's mean people in life that say that. Sorry, it's just part of the story. So that part didn't bother me at all. I just felt like at times it was a little uneven. At times it did feel a little like, okay, we're kind of treading here a little bit. It didn't really interest me all that much. The ending was a little bit of a question mark as well. I don't really know how I felt about the ending. I mean, I get what it was going for symbolically and stuff, but I don't know if I would have done the decision that Aronofsky made. I don't know. Otherwise, I feel like, it's not one that is like super stuck with me though. Aside from again some of those more graphic scenes like the binge eating scene and everything and all that. But yeah. And the other thing, I don't know. There's this kind of thing that happens to the film where he keeps going back to this letter or essay rather that somebody wrote for him, and you're like, oh, you figure it's this, and then it turns out to be something different. And I was like, I don't know. I was a little let down with who the person who wrote it was. They kind of keep that secret, I think, and unless I missed something and they just blatantly say who it is early, or it's their name is written on the on the top of the sheet of paper or whatever. But no, I don't know. So that one, I don't know. It's in that 6 or 7 out of 10 range for me. I'm kind of still up in the air about it myself, just score wise, but I'm leaning towards a 7. I mean, the acting is really good. It's a nice little ensemble and stuff. So yeah, I just at times too I do think like some of the other film adaptations from a couple of years ago, like I think we named them all last time, but it was like all the ones that were basically adaptations of the stage play. It felt very limited with its setting and stuff, which I think part of it is supposed to feel that way because you're kind of stuck with this giant guy and stuff, and you're supposed to feel a little claustrophobia from that. But I don't know. I felt like they almost could have opened it up a little bit here and there. Maybe gone into like a as much as I hate flashbacks, sometimes it's like, okay, there might have been an opportunity here or there to see that. And then we might have, because we do see a couple pictures of the Fraser character when he's a little skinnier. I think they still do a little makeup and they give him a little bit more, flab and stuff. But yeah, I feel like, I feel like if we had, seen a little bit more of him when he is not the 600-pound guy, recluse, basically. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like that might have, it might have been more impactful because then we see the difference between where he was then and where he is now, more, up front. Maybe that would have worked better. Maybe it just would have been overkill. I don't know. But I don't know. If it was me doing it, I probably would have made a couple of those changes. But yeah, I'm settling on a 7 out of 10 for that one. Then we get to The Fabelmans, and for this one, I've been really looking forward to it, and the last few months I've still been looking forward to it, but when we got to the film, there were a couple points where I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what I expected, and I wasn't really all that, super impressed with it, which it does not go against Spielberg at all for his directing job and stuff. Because I do think as far as how he's directing this and his touch on it and stuff, and where you feel like yes, he's involved in this. This is definitely one of his most personal films for sure, and it feels like one of his more upfront directing jobs. Probably since Munich, back to maybe Saving Private Ryan, back to that era. So almost 20 years now. So yeah, it does feel like one of those where he's. You can really sense it's him, West Side Story, you could probably guess it was a Spielberg film, mostly again from the lighting and stuff, but Bridge of Spies as well, The Post for sure, films like that where it's it's a good job, but it's but you can definitely tell it's Spielberg, and you can tell it's he's there, he's doing it, he's enjoying his time, but this is one where it's he felt like he needed to tell this story, so we'll get to that in a minute, but especially when we get to all the scenes where it's about, people talking about how good the movies are and how influential the movies can be and, how movies are magic and blah. So I feel like we've seen that to death, especially in recent years. All the self-reflexive stuff, it just feels like we've been there, done that, and there's really not way too much the film has to add. So unfortunately, I was a little let down in that department. I also felt like there were some kind of fits and starts just pace-wise. Sometimes it felt like we were moving at a good pace, and other times it felt like we were really taking our time through other things. So the pacing was kind of off for me. And there were a couple points where I was like, yeah, I'm kind of getting a little bored here. So maybe that's just me. But that being said, the one big thing I do have to say about the film, it really does feel like Spielberg, okay, there's definitely scenes in this movie where he's in the pre-production stage, writing the script and stuff, he's that's a scene I want to shoot. That's a scene I want to shoot. That's a scene, and you can tell there's certain scenes that have more energy to them or that are handled in a different way where it's boom, you just know this is not just something 2 years ago. This is something 30, 40, 50 years ago that Spielberg wrote down. He's one day I'm going to direct a scene like this. And some of those scenes are here, and those scenes are some of the best in the film. In particular, the final scene. The final scene, which for whatever reason kept popping up on YouTube here starting 2-3 weeks ago. And I kept looking, I'm I don't know what that's from. And I was almost baited into watching it once or twice, but I think I would have put it together. So it was much better for me to not have that surprise spoiled for me. But yeah, the last scene is terrific. And again, it feels like a scene that Spielberg, again, many years ago, just sat down and said, one day I'm going to shoot this scene. And here it is, and it is glorious, and it is excellent. It gets a little cutesy with the final shot, we'll just say that. But I was I don't know. I don't know if I would have done that choice, but okay. I'll let him get away with it this time. And then also, there's one scene that's toward the start of the third act that it's a pretty impactful scene. Especially because most of most of the film is centered on the family, on the main group of characters there. So you kind of follow them through everything. So when that moment happens, and if you know Spielberg's personal life, if you've seen the documentary they did on him a few years ago from, I think it was HBO or Netflix, one of the two, which I did. Yeah, then there's some things in here that are not a surprise. So that I knew it was coming, and I was dreading it. And when it happens, I still even sitting there, I was still getting a little emotional over it. And it's again, I think a lot of that is just from the actors too, though. Paul Dano and Michelle Williams both are incredible in the film, especially Michelle Williams. Wow, again, I think she's next level in this film. If she does not get nominated here on Tuesday, that's a tremendous sin. This is far and above what she has done in the past for some of her other nominations. I think this is better than her work in Manchester by the Sea. There's more of it, though. It's a bigger role. But, man, if she does not get in, that is just absolutely going to be crushing. Now, do keep in mind, the Oscar voters, when they look at their ballots and stuff, they can put her in wherever they want to. So part of me wants to dump somebody in supporting actress and put her in there, and she could just end up there and throw this whole thing out of whack. Remember Lakeith Stanfield here a couple years ago? We all thought he was campaigned to be in lead. They put him in supporting. So that could easily happen, and that clears up a space in Best Actress, so then both Viola and Ana de Armas can make it in, or her and Margot Robbie, or Ana de Armas and Margot Robbie. It could be a lot of things there. So keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, regardless, Michelle should be a nominee for this film. She is downright heartbreaking in several scenes. And there's a couple scenes where, she is just one of the best parts of the movie for sure. Arguably is the best part of the movie. And Paul Dano, I think, is excellent too. And again, really great to see him not play a creepy or a really just downright evil guy. He's a gentle guy. He only raises his voice occasionally. I mean, he feels very realistic, for sure. Let's see, the young actor I thought was really good, as who's basically playing Spielberg. Sammy, I think, was the character name. And yeah, again, the family dynamic I thought was pretty fun. They felt like a real family. They felt like they were mean to each other. They were ugly to each other. They were nasty to each other at times. That's what families do. They are all of those things to each other all the time, or on and off, Otherwise, I feel like cinematography was really great. John Williams' score, kind of, it was mixed in with a lot of classical music, so sometimes it felt like, oh, that could be a John Williams composition. I haven't looked up like his the soundtrack or anything to see, okay, what was him and what was not. There's a couple of parts where it's like, that's him, but yeah, I don't know if I would put this like up there, like on his list of greatest works, but it was good. It was really good. Production design, of course, always great. Yeah, all the technical stuff was really well done. Let's see. Oh, Seth Rogen was also in it. Seth Rogen was all right. He was, like in Steve Jobs, it's like, he comes to the task when it comes to playing a more, dramatic role. And his character does have, definitely some of the more humorous moments. But yeah, speaking of which, when I was talking about fits and starts, boy, when we get into that third act, there's this kind of girlfriend character for Sammy who comes in, and there is one scene with her, which from the way it happens stuff, you almost have to believe this happened to Spielberg at one point in his life, but that scene was just kind of bonkers and kind of weird and kind of out of place. And I didn't know what to think about it. It's weird. The actress that got to play her, she looks like it's uncanny. It's a mix of Amy Irving and Karen Allen, which is really weird because Spielberg worked with Karen Allen and he was dating Amy Irving for a while there. So I'm like, what? I'm like, that is, he totally cast that girl because she had, after the hair and stuff, it's like, she looked like a cross between those two. It was so weird. That was bizarre, and it was distracting too. And she's not like a center point of the film or anything, but yeah, she's introduced, and then she's kind of in it, here and there. But I was like, oh wow, I'm like, that just totally like, oh okay, I'm like, that's weird. And yeah, her character herself is weird, but it leads to one of the funnier moments in the film though. There's a little bit of a payoff kind of with her character that I laughed really hard at. I thought was really funny. Yeah, so generally speaking, I was entertained by the movie for sure. I feel like there's some parts of it that don't work. There's other parts of it that are, just not quite as entertaining. I'm settling on a very strong 8 out of 10. I'm really close to a 9 here. Really, really close, like razor thin close. But there's just certain elements to it. One other thing too, I really just bugs the shit out of me is in a movie where it's like, okay, certain characters age up and other ones do not. Like the Spielberg character, it's like, he stays, and obviously it's the same actor, you want to keep it for continuity's sake, but he looks the same at, 15 by that point? Like, there's a point kind of close to where the second act starts, where they go from him as a child to him as a teenager, and they stay with him as a teenager the rest of the film. But it's like, he doesn't gradually age, he's kind of the same for like 5 straight years. The sisters are all the same for 5 straight years. None of them grow up. The dad and the mom, they kind of age him up ever so slightly, like to that stage, but then they don't do anything. And then at the end, the dad character is still with him there in like the last 15, 20 minutes, and he looks more aged up, even though it's only been a year. And it's like, shit, that always just really bugs me. Not as bad as the Edison, the current war movie, where it's like, okay, literally everybody's the same age for like 30 years, and then you get to the final scene, which is like 10 years later, and all of a sudden Benedict Cumberbatch walks in like he's aged like 60 years. versus where he was at the start. And just that, I remember at that point, I was just like, in the theater, I was just like laughing because I'm like, you cannot be serious with this. You cannot think that people are going to just buy that hook, line, and sinker. That's ridiculous. So that bugged me a little bit too. And yeah, so I do have my quibbles with it. But that being said, I do recommend it. It's one, if you're a movie lover, you got to see. If you're a Spielberg fan, you got to see. But yeah, generally speaking, I liked it. Another thing, the camping scenes. Some of the camping scenes just really drug on as well. So yeah, I feel like I've said my piece with that one. Yeah. All right. Okay, so that all being said, let's move on to my final nomination predictions here, at least for now. Before BAFTA. That's before BAFTA, before I get, again, a good list of the nominees here, who crosses over, who doesn't, who got in at BAFTA, who now could feasibly get in at the Oscars, who maybe we weren't thinking of, stuff like that. And I'll save that for a different video. So this is who I had as of last night before nominations were out. So yeah, let's start with the short categories here. Live action short, Le Pupil, An Irish Goodbye, Red Suitcase, Warshaw, and Nacum. I don't think I've changed anything from there, and those are the 5 right now, according to Gold Derby, which is, again, you kind of take a risk with that. In documentary short, I was going to make sure I had the right one. Flag Makers, The Elephant Whisperers, How Do You Measure a Year, 38 of the Garden, and Nuisance Bearer are my 5. I feel like I've generally had those 5. I might have changed one of those, but this kind of feels, again, a little consensus, but Holding Moses and As Far as They Can Run are a couple other ones that are being thrown out there. In the animated short, The Boy, The Mole, The Fox, and the Horse, that feels like that's a pretty good front runner there. New Moon, The Year of Dicks, The Flying Sailor, and The Garbage Man are still my 5. The Garbage Man, I'm seeing fewer and fewer people putting in. Save Ralph looks like another animal one, so that one I'm really leaning toward. I feel like I have to find a spot for that one, so I might pull off The Flying Sailor or My Year of Dicks and put in that one, and then maybe, I don't know. Just looking at the images and stuff here, it's nice in here. Kind of feels like one that could sneak in. That feels like it's one that looks pretty like a pretty short there. For for animated feature. I'm sorry, visual effects. God, what am I doing here? Visual effects. Avatar, Top Gun, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, All Quiet on the Western Front are my 5. I'm leaving out Batman for now. We'll see. That could still get in. Nope is on the list as well, but I just don't think that one's really a strong viewer for the Oscar voters right now. In the sound category, Top Gun is still my favorite here, followed by Avatar, All Quiet on the Western Front. I still have Everything Everywhere All at Once in there, and then Babylon is my 5th one, but I feel like I need to put Elvis in here, so I need to boot one of those last 2, I think, in favor of Elvis. I'm leaning toward, I don't know, I feel like Everything Everywhere could fall out here, so it's, that's a close call for me. Come back to me later on that one. For makeup and hairstyling, I've got The Whale, I've got Batman, I've got Elvis, Babylon, and Blonde is my 5. Blonde I'm feeling a little more confident in. And if Blonde gets in here, okay, then you've got, they can pair up the nomination at least with Ana de Armas for Best Actress. So I'm leaving out Black Panther for now. I'm leaving out All Quiet on the Western Front, and I'm also leaving out Amsterdam, which could easily get in here. That could be one we're just really sleeping on. Boy, I don't know. And Babylon, I feel like Babylon is kind of safe, though. I don't know. I don't feel like if I pull it from both this and sound, I don't think so. I think Babylon, even though it didn't have a super strong showing here at BAFTA, I don't know. I still feel like it's going to do okay here at the Oscars. It might not lead nominations, but I think it's going to be in that upper tier, if not upper tier, moderate tier for number of nominations. I feel like it's definitely for that. I don't see it being only like 3 or 4. I could be dead wrong, but I don't see it only getting like 3 or 4. Okay, for original song, I probably need to update this. Not Two, I think, is our front runner now. It has to be. For Triple R. Then you've got Black Panther's Lift Me Up in there. You've got Ciao Papa from Pinocchio, Hold My Hand from Top Gun, and Applause from Tell It Like a Woman. I feel pretty confident in those 5, so sorry, Taylor Swift. I think, again, you're going to miss out here. In the score category, I still have The Fabelmans out front, but we'll see, especially, again, with John Williams kind of talking back retirement. I don't know. The Oscar voters might just forget about it. Women Talking is in second place for me, then Babylon, Banshees, and Pinocchio. And I feel like those are the 5. I don't know. I feel like I feel pretty confident with those. Moving on now to the design categories. We'll start with production design. Avatar is still my leader here, and then Babylon, Black Panther, Fabelmans, and Elvis are my 5. But All Quiet on the Western Front is really close, and I don't know. I mean, they might, just with the sequelitis thing, they might drop Black Panther in favor of All Quiet, but that's a really close one for me. Costume design, I've got Elvis out front, then Babylon, Black Panther, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Woman King are my 5. And again, I feel like The Woman King, if it gets in here, again, that leaves it room in Best Actress. So, yeah. Boy, I just remembering that about Michelle Williams, that really makes me want to do it, but I don't know. But I'm like, I feel good about my 5, though, in Supporting Actress. Oh, God, this is tough. Again, we'll get to that in a minute here. Otherwise, the Fabelmans could still get in, but the costumes are not really front and center of mind in that movie. I think more it's the production design and the cinematography and stuff, technically speaking. And maybe more so the editing as well. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris was a nominee here at BAFTA, so that could get in. Corsage could get in. Even Glass Onion, I think, which was a Critics' Choice nominee, that could even possibly sneak in there, slide in there, especially if it ends up being one of the 10 best pictures, but we'll see. So yeah, I mean, and Black Panther too, I feel like I should probably put that a little higher since it did repeat there at Critics' Choice. Okay. But yeah, I feel confident with Everything Everywhere, though, getting in. So I feel like these are the 5, but especially, yeah, Everything Everywhere, it's like there's so many costume changes, and so many of them are, a little more up into your face, so I feel like that one's getting in. And I have to remind myself, that was not a nominee here today at BAFTA, but we'll see. They went more for the period stuff, so yeah. Film editing. This is an interesting category for me. I've got Top Gun, I've got Everything Everywhere All at Once, I've got Fabelmans in there, and then All Quiet, and I've still got Avatar in that 5th slot, but boy, that 5th slot is tricky, I feel like. Unless Fabelmans drops out. Fabelmans could easily drop out. Not easily, but that could drop out. I can foresee a version of this where it's like, hey, it's All Quiet, it's Top Gun, it's Everything Everywhere All at Once, and then it's 2 other ones. I think Elvis is close. Elvis is a nominee at BAFTA here. We're still waiting on Ace Eddie, I don't think, has announced their nominees, have they? Unless they were earlier today and I just missed them. Yeah, I'm not seeing where Ace Eddie... when do they announce? No, that's from last year. I think it's coming up, isn't it? Here we go. Nominations... Oh, February 1st. Yeah, they pushed that one like the WGA. That one got pushed back, so they're not going to help us. They're not going to help us like WGA. They're just not going to help us prior to the Oscar nominations. So that would be really helpful to see where they put. I'm sure Elvis ends up in the drama category, but to see which of the 5 make it there, that would be really helpful. Because I feel like, okay, you've got the Fabelmans and Avatar close. Then you have Elvis. You have Banshees. You have Babylon. You have Tar, potentially, if that, because it's got, it does have, the director slot. It feels pretty secure for that one of those directing slots. So, boy, this is tricky. I might come back to that one and make a couple changes before Tuesday. Cinematography, though, I have the Fabelmans, Babylon. I now have Top Gun in there, All Quiet, and Avatar being my 5. And it feels weird leaving Roger Deakins out, but again, with Empire of Light, Olivia Colman is long gone. I think for Best Actress hopes. Michael Ward, it's a stretch to still get him in for supporting actor right now. I don't know where else they're going to vote for it. And again, some of these, they feel like traps sometimes. Now, when you get to the tech categories, those are more common where you get your one nominee and then nothing else. But I don't know. I feel like Batman still has a chance here. Elvis has a chance here. Everything Everywhere All at Once has a chance here. Banshees has a chance here. Even, again, Tar has a chance here. So but it's so many of them. It's like that are really close. I don't know. Yeah, I think right now I'm going to stick with my 5, but that one I could just miss a couple. We'll see. To the feature categories now. For international film, All Quiet on the Western Front, Decision to Leave, Close, Argentina 1985, and EO are my 5. I did drop Saint Omer. The Quiet Girl, I feel like, is going to be really close. Bardo could sneak in there. But even Return to Seoul, I think some people I've heard of have really liked that one. So that could be one of those sleeper ones, but I don't know. For doc feature, I've got All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, Fire of Love, All That Breathes, Naval Knee, and The Territory. So Moon Age Daydream has been popping up quite a bit here. But again, some of the more populist subject matters, they miss. Apollo 19, or not Apollo 19, I'm sorry. Apollo, I think it was just called Apollo, wasn't it? Or was it Apollo 11? That one missed a few years ago. Of course, Mr. Rogers missed a few years ago. It's just sometimes those popular subject matters, they don't go for them. So that's my stance on that one and why I'm not going with that one. For animated feature, Pinocchio, Turning Red, Marcel the Shell, Puss in Boots. I've got My Father's Dragon as that 5th one, but I don't know. The Sea Beast might sneak in there. I can see Wendell and Wild sneaking in there. Apollo 10.5, speaking of Apollo, that could sneak in there. I feel like at least those other 4, though, very, very solid. Very, very solid. Okay, to the screenplays now. Starting an adapted screenplay, I have Women Talking, The Whale, Glass Onion, She Said, and All Quiet on the Western Front being my 5 right now. So I'm leaving out Living. And I don't think that one's going to go. For screenplay on the original side, I have Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Banshees, Tar, and Triangle of Sadness. I feel okay with these 5. I feel like After Sun not getting in at BAFTA, I don't know if that one's done, but that one hurts. That film's chances for sure. Moving on to supporting actress, I've got Angela Bassett out front now for Black Panther, Stephanie Sue in second for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Carrie Condon for Banshees, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere, and Hong Chow for The Whale. Boy, if Michelle Williams gets in, whose spot does she steal? That is tough. I'm tempted to say she would steal Jamie Lee Curtis's spot. But I feel like with Jamie Lee, she's been, from what I've seen, she's been on the awards circuit everywhere. She, got up on stage to help introduce Eddie Murphy for his Cecil B. DeMille Award and stuff. She's been everywhere for the film, campaigning it and stuff. So, plus she's never been nominated before, and even though it's not the best role, it does feel like, okay, let's finally give her at least a nomination. So I can't drop her. Stephanie Sue, in the meantime, is kind of vulnerable here. She wasn't on the long list at BAFTA. She is a nominee at SAG, though. And she and Jamie Lee both got in at SAG, which is really helpful. She also missed at Globes, but she was in at Critics' Choice, so that's tough. And Angela, I think now that she's starting to win stuff, I feel like the voters aren't going to turn. I don't think they're going to make that turn and just drop her. That would be really weird, though. That would be really, really weird. But again, even though Black Panther, it's obviously not going to do as well, I think, as the first film, but it's stuck around. It's gotten one of the PGA nominations and stuff. I can't drop her. And Hong Chow, I think The Whale has been picking up steam lately. Got one of the PGA nominations. Got Hong Chow in both at BAFTA and SAG. So even though she missed a couple spots early, I can't drop her. Then you've got Carrie Condon, and she's one of the standouts in Banshees. So it's like, fuck me, I don't know who to drop if I'm going to put Michelle Williams back in. And it's going to be one of those weird things too, because it's like the Academy, enough of the voters have to decide, hey, I put her in for supporting, and she can't cancel herself out. So maybe that's a viable theory as well. That could be one as well. If enough voters put her in supporting and the other half put her in lead, she gets neither. So, boy, I don't know. Then you had, remember, and then you've got like a Kate Winslet example too, though, where she was kind of campaigning. They can't put you in the same category for two different films. So there was kind of a thing with The Reader and with Revolutionary Road. There was kind of a question of will she cancel herself out, but they ended up going lead for The Reader, even though she had won, I think, at least one other category supporting for that film. I think the Globe, she picked up a win in supporting actress for that. So, and I think she'd been nominated at least one other place for supporting actress, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that, but we'll see. But yeah, that's I can see her canceling herself out if enough voters put her both lead and supporting. Oh, that would be terrible. That would be awful. I don't know. I might go with that. And put both Viola Davis and Ana de Armas in. Well, actually, no. I'd still have to drop Danielle Deadwyler if they're both getting in. Shit. See? This is what I mean. Or I'd have to drop Margot Robbie instead. I don't know. Oh, God damn it. Oh. At least, hey, some years it's, again, I've said that, I feel like I've said this many times now, but sometimes it does feel like a struggle to get to 5 nominees in Best Actress. We do not have this problem this year. And it's not just, hey, we have, a solid 5. It's we have a solid 5, and then we have like 2 or 3 others that are still really viable. So, and even then, I don't think we even have a solid 5. I think we have a solid 2. Because Danielle Deadwyler missed the Globes. So, I don't know. And Viola Davis, her film was out early enough. I can still see a weird scenario where she misses. So, I feel like we've got a solid 2. Which, again, tell me the last time that happened in Best Actress. Oh, weird. Okay, in supporting actor, I think I've pretty much stabilized on this. It's Ke Huy Quan, both Brendan Gleeson and Barry Keoghan for Banshees, Paul Dano, and Brad Pitt. So again, Judd Hirsch, again, especially after seeing the movie now, yeah, I would have dropped him a while ago if I'd known that. He's basically in one scene and that's it. And it's a struggle to get those actors in sometimes. And again, I'm not biting the Eddie Redmayne bait on The Good Nurse, so I'm not putting him in. And after that, it's people that have really just struggled this season to get in anywhere. It's Mark Rylance for Bones and All, Tom Hanks for Elvis, Ben Whishaw for Women Talking, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, even Jeremy Strong for Armageddon Time, or Woody Harrelson for Triangle of Sadness. So, yeah. Let's go to the lead actress category again. I feel like I've said my piece now because we mentioned quite a bit of it in supporting actress, but Cate Blanchett, right now my 5 are Cate Blanchett, Michelle Yeoh, Michelle Williams, Danielle Deadwyler, Margot Robbie. But, shit. Right now I'm leaning toward putting Michelle out of this and not putting her in supporting, and she cancels herself out. As heartbreaking as that is, I can see that happening. And if I drop Margot Robbie, then I can put both Viola Davis and Ana de Armas in. And I might just settle on that. Because again, Ana de Armas, I feel like that movie, it's got the makeup, likely nomination there, or at least it's maybe not likely, but it's it's in my 5, and I feel like it's one that not a lot of people I've seen on Gold Derby, the odds were dropping, so I kept putting it in at lower odds or worse odds or whatever, and now it's kind of back up higher on the list now. And remind me again, it was not a nominee here today at BAFTA, but yeah, and if I remember right, it was on the long list. So they've at least it's been taken notice of the makeup in that film. And she is kind of in that ingenue status. She's been in a couple of bigger movies. This kind of feels like one of her big dramatic roles. So first big dramatic role in this way, where she's kind of the center of attention and stuff. So yeah, I can see her getting a nomination there. I think we've talked about that a little bit in the last couple of weeks here. After the SAG nomination, for sure, we talked about it. Boy, Best Actor, too. Okay, you've got your 4, deadlocks, 100% happening. It's Brendan Fraser, Colin Farrell, Austin Butler, and Bill Nighy. It's that 5th slot. That 5th fucking slot is going to be so goddamn weird. Okay, it's either going to be Paul Mescal, or Tom Cruise, or Hugh Jackman, or Jeremy Pope, or Adam Sandler. Or maybe possibly Tom Cruise, possibly Diego Calva, possibly Gabriel LaBelle if The Fabelmans kind of has a little bit of a bounce back. Could even be a couple previous nominees like Timothée Chalamet or Adam Driver. White Noise, we haven't talked about that one in a while. That's a Netflix film. But I feel like it's more like they're leaning on past winners when you get to that open slot. And when I look down the list, you do have Tom Hanks for A Man Called Otto, which is not very critically received very well. It hasn't gotten any other nominations anywhere, but the box office has been surprisingly strong for the film. That's one of the few more adult fare films, even though this one I can see an argument where somebody can call this more a family film. That's been a rare bright spot at the box office for these kind of more adult-leaning films. So, that could, it sounds outlandish, doesn't it? But, hey, it could happen. You've also got a previous, I had him in way long ago, Christian Bale for Amsterdam, but again, I feel like that one has really disappeared, so I would almost say that one maybe, but that one has really disappeared, so I don't think so. And yeah, versus A Man Called Otto, which is, again, starting to do pretty well at the box office now, or continuing to do well, I should say. Then I've got my 5 for Best Director. I've had, not these 5, but I've had, most of these 5 in for a while, and I'm pretty confident in these 5. I don't think I'm going to change them. It's the Danielses for Everything Everywhere, Steven Spielberg, Todd Field, Martin McDonagh, Edward Berger. I feel like those are my 5. I don't feel like I'm going to change here. And I don't know if I need to get on the soapbox right now for this, but keep in mind, just in case it happens, because right now the writing is kind of on the wall now, especially with because we know with the new BAFTA jury system, there's only one. You're always going to have one female director in there now with this group of 6 with this jury system until they change it. So Gina Prince, I always want to say Price, but it's Gina Prince Bythewood. I cannot, whatever. I don't think she's getting into one of these 5 slots. And Sarah Polley, long listed here at BAFTA, still couldn't get in. Obviously, her film didn't do anything, so that could be part of it. But also not on the list of DGA, not on the list of Globes, so the writing is on the wall. It's probably going to be 5 male directors this year again. For the first time in a while, since 2019. I just want to say this. I've said this has been my rule from the beginning, whether it's about female representation or people of color representation in certain categories. Just remember this. These awards are supposed to be voted on by merit, not based on, spreading the wealth, As hard as that is for some people to understand, it's also not. They also can't get it through their fucking heads that the Academy Awards are voted on by the voters individually. This is not a group of 12 white elderly men who are sitting in a room saying, "Okay, here's our nominees for this category. Here's our nominees for this category." I don't care where you see that, what political cartoon, whatever. That is not how these awards are decided. I don't know who else I need to say that to. Because of course we're going to see think pieces about how the white male academy, blah, blah, blah. And remember, too, I said this in 2019, it's a strong point, and it's one that not everybody makes. Every year, the academy is getting more diverse, not just as far as age, which is a big factor, but it's also getting more diverse as far as ethnicity, as far as where you're from. They're opening it up to more global voters. They're also opening up to more women than ever, more people of color than ever. Just remember, 2019 was a pretty male-dominated year for, directing race, of course, and the acting races. If you don't count Antonio Banderas, which I guess nobody does, you only had one person of color in there, and they played a slave, which I get it. It's not a great look. I get it. But at the same time, she was a very worthy nominee, and you don't hold that against her at all. So, so the bottom line is these awards are getting voted on by more diverse people. And what you're seeing with the results for who's in shows you, hey, sometimes people just like that. And another thing, too, to keep in mind, Academy Award voters, most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, they don't like to be told what to vote for or who to put in. Most of the time. That's how it works. So yeah, I know we're going to see a dozen think pieces Oscar morning when we don't get a female director in, when it's possible that we see, very few female-led films in there for Best Picture. Really, at this point, Tar is your only safe, like 100% going to make it in bet for Best Picture, because Women Talking I can see falling out. Babylon has a female lead. That one is, kind of more on shakier ground, I feel, even though it does have the SAG nomination. I have it in still, but there's a weird scenario where that one falls out too. So we'll see. So, that's, again, my 5 for director. For picture, I have Everything Everywhere, The Fabelmans, Banshees, Top Gun, Tar, Elvis, All Quiet, Women Talking, Avatar, and Babylon. I feel like I've had these 10 for a while here. A little bit, at least. The Whale is, again, gaining momentum. And, getting a technical nomination, screenplay, 2 acting nominations, and picture is a good 5. And 5 is a good round number to get. So The Whale, I am really close to putting that in. The question is, who do I take out? Do I take out Women Talking? Do I take out All Quiet? If there's a weird scenario where that does not get a Best Picture nomination? Do I take out Babylon? Or maybe, as weird as it sounds, I've got Avatar pretty low on my list right now. And it's a big box office champ and stuff, and I feel like it's going to do pretty okay at the tech categories. But if James Cameron doesn't get in for directing this time, which I have predicted to happen, how much does that hurt Avatar and Best Picture? Then again, I have to say this. You've got a few box office hits in this list. Everything Everywhere. Top Gun. You've got Elvis, which made money. And Avatar. I feel like to a certain degree, too, some of the voters might keep in mind, hey, what about our ratings? Not to say that that's everything, of course. But sometimes it's maybe a little bit of a factor. Don't tell me that wasn't at least a little bit of a factor with Titanic going 11 for 14. Or Return of the King going 11 for 11 in those years. That might have been part of the reason why those won, on top of them also being good films. So to at least get Top Gun nominated, to at least get Avatar nominated, and Elvis and Everything Everywhere, I think, I feel like those four, I think, are generally safer picks, because they might just want to put at least 3 of those 4 in. But I right now I have 4, all those 4. So, otherwise, other films on the periphery to mention here, Black Panther could still get in, Glass Onion maybe, and The Whale is the big one. The Whale's the big one. Let's see. Otherwise, speaking of possible other directing choices, if it's not Edward Berger, or if for whatever weird reason either Martin McDonagh or Todd Field fall out, Spielberg's going to happen. That's that. Even though he wasn't long listed at BAFTA, we can explain that away with just the film not doing well. James Cameron could still get in. Sarah Polley, the door is not completely shut on her, but it feels like she really is struggling, and that could just, it might just be a so long kind of thing, especially after she didn't get in after being long listed here today. Boy, that's really tough. Baz Luhrmann, I think, is still out there. Because he got the DGA nomination, I got to name him. Joseph Kosinski. Again, I'm going to go to my grave. He's not getting in for this. And because she is a nominee here at BAFTA as well, I'll throw in Gina Prince Bythewood just on the off chance. But I feel like I feel like The Woman King. Not only does it need Viola Davis to definitely get in, it needs costume design. I think it feels like it needs a little bit more support to get into the directing category. For me personally, I feel like. Again, unless they're just looking at the makeup of who the director is and stuff, which, I don't know. We'll see. But I don't think they're thinking that way this year. So, there you go. So, I definitely have some thinking to do on some of these categories, especially the Best Actress and Supporting Actress lineup. That, with Michelle Williams, I just don't know. I just don't know what to do with that. That's a really, 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 really tough decision there. Picture, I might throw out 1 or 2. Some of those tech categories as well. So, now I got to get to work and figure that shit out. So, wish me luck, and we'll see everybody on Monday for sure. I'll have a video uploaded. If I feel like there might be some time sensitive things, I might shoot something and get the final predictions done by like Saturday or Sunday, and then upload that on Monday. So we'll see where it goes. But that's all for now.